Questions to ask during your IT interview. So an interview works two ways. So the company is trying to interview you to see what kind of person you are. Do you know the role? Are you a good fit for the role? Are you a team player? But also, this is your chance to qualify that company to see if you want to work for them. So today's video, I'm going to go over some questions that you can ask during your first IT interview. So don't forget to click like, subscribe, and that notification bell. Welcome to Debt Free in IT. I'm your host, Mike. This podcast is for anyone who's looking to get into the IT industry, whether it's for a career change or you're just interested, you come to the right place. So let's get started. Questions you should ask during your IT interview. So this first question should come up in conversation, but if it doesn't, then you definitely need to ask this question. So the first question you need to ask is, can they describe the typical day-to-day responsibilities of the role that you're applying for? So this question gives you more insight as to the role that you're applying for. I'm pretty sure you read the job description, but a lot of times the job description has a lot of everything that you may be doing. But if you're interviewing with that particular department that you're trying to get that role for, it's best to ask the people that currently work in that role what a typical day-to-day may look like and what your responsibilities may look like. Because no one is going to know that job better than the people that's interviewing you that's already working in that job. So the first question, ask them, can they describe what a typical day and your responsibilities may look like for that particular job? So the next question that you want to ask is, what's the company policy, or how do they support professional development or any kind of learning opportunities for their IT employees? So this lets you know how the company expects you to learn new technologies that y'all may implement. So there are some companies out there that may implement a new technology and then they expect for their IT workers to automatically know how to support that technology or how to implement that technology. Or some of them may go and change a whole system and then just expect, because you're an IT employee, that you already know it or that you know everything. You know, most people automatically assume if you're in IT, then you know it all. So some companies will do this. So you need to ask how they support new learning opportunities or professional development. Because if you happen to get to a good company, what these good companies will do is, if they implement a new technology, pretty much they're going to send you off to training or provide some kind of training support for you. Maybe they may have somebody with that company that they just implemented that technology from, maybe on site or on call, where if you have issues or if you have questions for a couple of months. And then also, this company may also pay for you to up your skill set. So meaning that, okay, if you're in networking and let's say you're not certified at all and you're in networking, so this company may pay for any kind of learning material you need to study for the CCNA certification, or any kind of learning material for the CCNP, or any certification that you're going after, because the more you know, the better it works out for the company. So if you're good at networking, the better it is for the company, because they can implement these new technologies and they got someone that's learned around these technologies. And also the same thing works for any other certification, not just networking. So you need to see what type of company this is and how they support that professional development or learning opportunities. Then also you could be at a company that most companies, like I said, is going to be real high on their ladder, that, you know, the professional development and any kind of learning opportunity. So you may be with a company that any kind of conference going on, if it's something that evolves around your role, then you may be able to go to that conference, learn about what's new coming down the pipeline. So it's always a good question to ask is, how do they support professional development and any kind of new learning opportunities? Because like I said, I've seen companies go both ways. Some of them don't really provide nothing, where you have to go out, pay for everything yourself. And some of them, they'll gladly pay for it. I have even seen some where they reimburse you if you're going for higher education also. So if you got an associate's degree, you want to go get that bachelor's, they may reimburse you for all of it. If they do, that's a real good company. Or they may reimburse you for a certain percentage of it. But this is one question that you always want to ask. So the third question you want to ask is, what kind of tools and technologies does your company already have? So if you're in a networking role, then this is for the IT infrastructure. So you want to know, okay, are y'all currently or some places may call themselves a Cisco house, where meaning that they got all Cisco equipment, or are y'all another vendor? Do y'all use you? Some places have Dell equipment because Dell make the networking equipment also, or there might be another company. So this is where you just want to check, because not saying that if they're not a Cisco company and you've learned on Cisco, pretty much those skills are transferable, but it's just something that you need to be aware of. You don't want to come in there thinking that, oh, this is going to be a breeze my first day because I know all about these Cisco devices, these Cisco switches, and you get there and then you on a Dell switch where some of the commands are similar, but some of them are a little bit different. So that's one thing that you might want to ask just so that you know. So you're finding value in this episode and you're listening via YouTube or your favorite podcasting app, please leave me a review or a comment. And if you have a friend who needs to hear this, please share this episode with them. So the fourth question that you want to ask is, how is the work-life balance for the IT team? So pretty much this makes a difference, because sometimes having a good work-life balance is pretty good, even if you may get paid a little bit less. Sometimes it's worth the less pay, because with that work-life balance, you don't want to be taking your work home with you. Where in most IT roles, especially when you start moving up the ladder, you want to know these type of things. Okay, if I have a project, you want to be able to get that project done while you're on the clock. When in some cases, I know that, okay, these big projects and what have you, you may have to come home and do some more research, but you don't want that to be an everyday thing. So it's give or take, you're going to do it sometimes. But this is where you want to find out what kind of work-life balance this company has. So what type of work schedule you're going to have. Are you going to be Monday through Friday? Are you going to be 7 days a week? Are you Monday through Friday and on call after hours? Do y'all have a call rotation? If so, how often are you on call? So a lot of these is valid questions that you can ask during your interview. Most cases, you're going to have some sort of on call rotation. So it's going to depend on whether or not you're working on a small team or a large team. If you're on a large team, you may be on call once every 2 months or so, once every 3 months. But if you're on a small team, then that on-call rotation goes a little bit faster, to where you're on call once a month or once every 2 weeks or something of that nature. So a good question to ask is, what is the work-life balance for the IT team at the company you're interviewing for? So the last question I have that you can ask during your interview is, what opportunities are there for career advancement in the IT department? So if you're applying for a role, you don't want to be at a role where there's no opportunity to move up. You don't want to come in and don't have no sort of growth. So you want to be able to grow while you're at this role. So you want to know, okay, when I'm here, how is my evaluations, how are they evaluated? How often are they evaluated? What makes me a good employee? So how do I meet everything I'm evaluated on? What's the criteria for that? And then also you want to know, okay, if I'm coming in at an analyst level in a networking role, let's say that I perform good on my reviews, how soon would I be able to move up to the engineer role? And then once we move up to the engineer role, what role do we have after that? Where in most cases, it's going to go from technician, analyst, or administrator, then engineer, and then maybe a senior engineer. Some places may have something higher than that. That would be an architect. Most of the time, that senior engineer or architect is going to be the highest you can go anyway. But you always want to have room to grow. So you don't never want to go somewhere and say, okay, I want to be in this position for the next 10 years. You always want to have room to grow, because pretty much in the IT field, it grows fast. So pretty much you want to keep up and grow with it. So one thing to ask is, how's their career advancement for the IT department, and how does everything work? How does your evaluations work? How often are those evaluations, and things of that nature, just to get some more insight to the company that you're applying for. So next up, pretty much that was the 5 tips that you can ask, or 5 questions you can ask on your next IT interview. You probably noticed that I didn't mention nothing about no money or no income. So pretty much when you're interviewing for an IT role, of course, everyone wants to know what you're making or how much money I will be making, but that's something that you don't want to put off first. So yeah, I'm interested in my pay, what I'm gonna be paid, but I'm not gonna lead the interview asking how much will I be making. So with that term, it's kind of a thin line. So you want to be genuinely interested in the role in the first place. So you want to be interested in the job. Then you want to try to dig down. You know, you ask questions. They're going to ask you questions. Maybe in your technical interview, you know, you can ask the questions we just went over. And then, you know, if you make it to that third interview, that might be a good point to ask, you know, about your salary, to bring up salary. Or sometimes, if your very first interview is with the HR department of some sort, a lot of times they might mention the pay range. But then once you get to that last interview or that third interview, that might be a good time to go in detail to kind of get a better range. Because a lot of times, if it's HR, they may give you a wide range. When you're interviewing with the actual team on that third interview, you may be able to ask that. So a lot of times, I hardly ever lead in asking how much I'm gonna make. You know, sometimes that may put a bad taste in their employer's mouth. You know, sometimes it's, you know, everybody does it different. Some people lead into the interview, oh, how much I'm making, so I don't waste my time. Yeah, that may be cool too, but if you're just getting in it, a lot of times I wouldn't lead with it. Some, you know, it's different for different strokes for different folks. Usually, like I said, usually the first interview, the HR or something that you're dealing with, they may tell you the salary range, but then definitely on that last interview, if you make it to the second or third interview, then it should come up around the pay range. That way, you know, okay, if there's something you can entertain. And hopefully by that time you haven't wasted your time, because a lot of times the role should be pretty good depending on your area. The pay should be pretty decent depending on your area. But like I said, if you're in a small area like me, it may not be like that. So that's why I didn't really bring up anything of pay wise for these interview questions to ask during your IT interview. So that brings me to the end of this episode. Hopefully, you found some value in this episode. If you're on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, you can follow me at Debt Free IT. If you have any questions or anything, you can email me at debtfreeandit@gmail.com. Other than that, I'll see you next week. Peace.